Hello, this is a quick run through of Part A, Part B and Part C questions for the options in psychology for OCR A level. I'm going to be kind of mixing and matching here a bit because it's the same skills throughout, whether it's crime or sport you're looking at. As it says here, in criminal psychology and sport and exercise, you'll get three questions that are highly likely to be from the same topic. So you'll get an A, B, and C question for criminal psychology. You'll get an A, B, and C question for sport and exercise psychology. It's likely that highly, 99%, I would say, likely that all the crime questions will be based on the same topic and all the sport questions will be based on the same topic. Okay. So it could be topic 1 that's being looked at in crime. It could be topic 4 that's being looked at in sport and exercise psychology. Hopefully that makes sense. Right, so what I've done here is I'm going through the Part A questions, and then once you've gone through this little video, then you have a go at the Part A question there that's on the Nearpod. Okay, so Part A questions. They come in two main forms, really, depending on the key research that they're looking at. It's always looking at the key research, this, by the way, the Part A question. They're going to be looking at your ability to provide knowledge about a particular key piece of research, and they're also going to be looking at your ability to apply that knowledge. What do the results of that study actually tell you, in other words, As I say, they can be in two different forms. It depends on the research that you're looking at. So, for instance, the first one that we're going to look at here is Memon and Hayem. And if you remember, Memon and Hayem it didn't have a very rigid procedure to it, did it really? It was more of a review piece. Okay, so in that situation, you would deal with the question in a slightly different way. If it's a question which is based on something which has got a very easy, straightforward procedure to it, I don't know, like Smith et al. Or Kroll and Crenshaw or something like that, then you might deal with it in a slightly different way. And I'll show you both of those examples here. So Memon and Hayem, if you remember, is from crime, and the question says, explain how the research by Memon and Hayem could be used to improve the way evidence is collected through police interviews. Right, so you wouldn't just go into huge amounts of detail about Memon and Hayem's study here as such, although obviously you would apply that information. What you're doing here is actually coming up with the ideas that they produce and why they produced them and why that would be useful for the collection of police interviews, evidence through police interviews. Very similar sort of approach you would maybe take to Wilson and Kelling as well, I would say. I'm trying to think if there's another example of that. Maybe Fazey and Hardy to a certain extent as well. Yeah, hopefully that one won't come up this year. It did come up last year, but the same sort of idea again. So if I just go through a paragraph, I'll just show you what I mean here. So one way that the collection of evidence through police interviews could be improved is by increasing the amount of training for cognitive interviews. Right, so you'll see there straight away we're coming up with a recommendation that comes from that piece of research rather than saying everything about that piece of research. Then we go into the research itself. In Memon and Hayem's review, they claim that the quality and quantity of training is an important issue, as conducting cognitive interviews is a significantly more demanding and exhausting interview process than a standard interview. Okay, so if you look here again, we'll put more detail here about what Memon and Hayem actually said as part of their review. So why was it you came up with that recommendation at the start? This is why, yeah. What is the placed on interviews that may cause to produce more errors? This increase in training can improve the way evidence is collected and reduce the number of errors made. Okay, so again, we're justifying why it was that they said that. And then we finish off with, therefore, the use of this type of interview over a standard interview is more likely to increase validity. Right, so just think about what we've done there. Memon and Hayem I've picked out here particularly because it's a very particular type of research which you don't necessarily approach in the same way when you get a Part A question. It's a review article, as I've said already. We have other review articles, don't we? Wilson and Kelling, a good example from crime as well. Fazey and Hardy from sports. You would deal with them in this way, okay? So you would look at it that way. Fazey and Hardy even more so really. You would talk about catastrophe theory. You might even draw the graph, but that would be the way to go with those types of questions. For a 10 marker, you're probably going to be coming up with about at least 3 or so paragraphs there, just with the recommendations for that. And I've written there, these are the trickier type of Part A questions because the research is a review. You must concentrate on the conclusions and recommendations at the start of each paragraph. State a recommendation to prove the way evidence is collected. You should then back it up with research evidence. Okay, right, now, those ones are probably the trickier ones. The really, really easy ones are these ones here. Just show you, this is from Sport. Okay, using the research by Kroll and Crenshaw, explain the concept of personality, how it can be measured, and its relationship to sport. It's kind of like a 5-5 split. This really thereabouts, in that we want you to describe the study to start off with. Okay, and it's an easy one to describe, isn't it? Kroll and Crenshaw, and you just go through the procedures, and this would be the case with the vast majority, really, of these types of questions, really. So Kroll and Crenshaw is a good example there. We've just kind of gone through the idea, okay, well, what they actually found, what they did, well, you know, the procedure, so the aim, the method, the results, the conclusions, okay? And then we just finish it off by basically saying what the results suggests, okay, about the relationship between personality and sport. So as I've said here, this Part A question from Sport is more straightforward. The key research has a clear methodology. So you simply outline the key research first of all, and then apply its findings to the question. Right, what have I given you for the Nearpod then? Let's have a little look. Okay, it would either be crime or sports. Right, we've gone sport with this one. Okay, this is outline the key research by Smith et al. This was from the 2020 paper, and explain what it tells us about coaching in sport. Dead simple again, just tell me all about Smith's study, okay, and then tell me about how it applies to coaching in sport. If you want to check out your answers, then obviously we've got the Revision World there, but we've also got, I'm pretty sure there's an answer to that very question as a model answer in your Model Answer Component 3 booklets, which contains model answers for pretty much everything that could be thrown at you, really. Okay, hope that's helpful, guys. If you can get your answer on there, and then we can have a little look at it when we have time. Cheers, thanks for the moment.